Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On this episode, we'll be wrapping up the Deuce Deuce 2022. And in this year, we saw lots of changes, lots of monumental ups and downs. And there were a lot of episodes where we dropped some bombs on y'all and gave y'all some real knowledge nuggets to absorb. There's a lot to recap and revisit, but there's a lot that's going on now as well. And one thing that has me thinking is these catastrophe bonds. You ever heard of these things?
No.
So the catastrophe bonds is a concept that was created by the World Bank. So this tells you where this conversation is headed. And catastrophe bonds are created by the World Bank. And they are issued by these high-level lenders and insurance companies. And these catastrophe bonds it's insurance that's sold to states, the state of Georgia, the state of Nebraska, the state of California, the state of New York. They're sold these bonds that they can recoup if a natural disaster happens.
For those that don't know, the way a bond works, essentially you're loaning your money to a company and they pay you an interest rate. You get paid every 6 months. Same thing with municipal bonds. A municipal bond is when you buy a bond in like a local government. Say they want to build a bridge or they want to build a library, and you buy this bond and you're lending that money to them for 10 years. Every 6 months for 10 years, they pay you a lump sum. And then at the very end, you get your principal back. So this catastrophe bond is some interesting shit. So you're paying the World Bank in case some shit happens?
Mm-hmm.
Then it happens, they give you all your money back, part of your money back.
But here's the deal, though. This is where they nickel and dime you. And this is where it becomes like what my dad used to call some Mickey Mouse bullshit. Say, for example, you live near a volcano. And we'll say if you're in the United States, it's Mount St. Helens. So then that county or the state of Washington has this catastrophe bond. They have catastrophe bonds and this collateralized insurance. And they have an eruption. Now, they will receive a payout or a lump sum based on how bad it is. But if they don't exceed this threshold of disaster, they won't get any money. So they paid all this money into this insurance, but because the plumes on the volcano only reached 1 mile high, it doesn't exceed our catastrophe threshold. So therefore, we're not going to pay it out. Oh, I see what's going on. So this is a way to basically just you're fleecing people, but it's a racket and you're a parasite. So you're just basically taking government funds from these countries and these states.
And the shit never goes.
And you're promising something that you really don't intend to deliver on.
Well, the closest example I got on the flip side of that, you remember, of course, we know the World Trade. Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's company, is the biggest reinsurer of insurance companies. So insurance companies have insurance companies. And so the World Trade first tower goes down, second tower goes down. So you would think that's one incident. They claimed it as two separate incidents. He had to pay $2 billion out of his own pocket. And so he was like, no, this is one incident. The World Trade plane hit both things is one incident. And so they had to go to court, and they said, no, these are two separate incidents. One plane hit one building, one plane hit the other building. They were unrelated. They were related, but they were unrelated. And he had to pay $1 billion, I guess, $2 billion per building or some crazy shit.
This is how slick willy these insurance companies are. They want to take your money just in case something happens. But they will only pay out some money depending on how severe it is. And they really don't want to give up any money at all. This is the fucked up part about it, is they take your money, but they're slow to give it back to you. So, this is something that's a lot more sinister than it seems. Like on the surface, it sounds, this is just some type of another insurance scam.
It sounds slimy to begin with, but this has deeper roots, I bet.
Right, because it's all related to monetizing everything in nature, to monetizing the flow of the river. And so they're relating that to transportation and logistics. So these barges that go down the river carrying cargo of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, the largest rivers in North America, they have a set level to those rivers that can allow a barge to go down them. when there's a drought and the river level drops low enough, that can trigger a natural disaster because that will prevent the barges from traveling all the way down the river. And then the transportation system of America will have to find a way to get this cargo off these barges and onto semi trucks and to their ports. Well, is this a bad thing? No. What it plays into is a bigger planetary computer system. And if you want to throw a fight, then you go and you talk to your boxer and you tell him, hey, you're going down in the fourth and you're going to be knocked out, but you won't be knocked out, but you're going to act like you're knocked out. I'm using that analogy because if you have a mechanism, device or devices for controlling the weather, then you can prevent an amount of rain from reaching a certain region or an area, or you can cause wildfires in Colorado, California, the Rocky Mountain area. Or you can cause tornadoes to begin with artificial microbursts, which are just these blasts of air that come down out of the sky.
Yep.
So
that literally can cause a drought someplace else because it adjusts the jet stream.
It's drying up all the moisture.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yes. Or you can put a whole bunch of cloud cover into an area so that it only gets a certain amount of direct sunlight during spring and summer. And you do this by creating artificial chemtrails, which spread out to cover the whole sky. Now, when I came up there to visit you in November, and I was flying up there, I sent you photographs of what I saw when I was looking out the airplane. And there were these fronts, these huge, long walls of clouds. Like, you know, the flat earthers talk about the ice wall? This shit looked like an ice wall in the air. I showed Duct Tape this photo, and he was gab-smacked. He didn't fucking believe it. He didn't like, dude, that's a real thing? It was a real thing. This cloud went on for about 25 miles.
It's not that I don't believe you. It's just the fact that
it's astonishing.
Yeah, it's some weird shit. Look. Here's the thing that we talk about a lot of shit off the air. And I'm telling them, like, look, bruh, I'm seeing all kinds of either launches or landings. I'm seeing this weird shit. I can't explain it. It's miles away. But I'm like, there was a couple days where we had serious overhead, but there were little breaks in the clouds. And I'm telling you, it looked like there were landings. It looked like they were doing something in the sky and the shit was coming down. I've sent you a couple pictures of stuff coming down. And so I'm thinking in my head, what's the best way to hide launches if nothing but this cloud cover? If you got this massive cloud cover, there's shit going on above us we can't see. And besides, you're wrestling with the weather or you're driving, or you're not concerned with that. But I'm telling you, if you want to disguise something, if you want to cloak something, if you want, hell, we all remember Independence Day how my little homie said, when you walk in that movie, just look at the clouds, you'll feel different. I'm like, yeah, whatever you're talking about. But that's how it was. When I walked out the movie, I'm like, you could hide a spaceship in there.
Dude.
But
listen, sidebar that's related. I think I was watching something on TV. Flipped past this show. It was this dating game show. And there was these 3 white women that were competing to get this guy to go on a date. And one of them was a mechanical engineer. And she worked for a propulsion lab. They didn't say which one she worked for, but they said that she was working on satellites and launching stuff into space. Or she said launching stuff into space. And then they asked her, like, well, can you tell us what you're launching? And she's like, no, can't do that. It's classified. I said, First thing I thought about, bro, is all of these fucking launches that we see going out of Omaha up into space every single week. And not once a week. We talking about Monday through Friday. Like it's a job. These motherfuckers are launching this shit into space.
Look, I send pictures to Roscoe all the time. I'm like, look, man, this look like a plane to you. And what I do is I'll show him regular planes going horizontal, but then I'll see 1 or 2 planes going, looks like straight up. Looks like it's an aggressive vertical launch. I'm like, that's not normal. That's not just a plane. But I see it all the time. And I started seeing them on Sunday. And I got pictures going about 3 or 4 years that I've been sending him like, hey, man, that's vertical. This is this. And I even got one where these 2 chemtrails cross like an X in the middle of, I'm in the hood and I sent it to him like, hey, look at this one. And all I'm saying is that they're having experimental launches. They're doing something on a regular basis, and people are so busy they don't see it. People don't look up at the sky. And then when I show some people, they're like, nah, man, if you tell me that that's vertical coming at me, I'm not going to argue with you. But like I said,
but if I show it to you and you see the same thing that I'm seeing, and you still want to deny that it's not doing what it's doing, that's indoctrination.
Yeah, but the only reason this is relevant is you just said that this woman says she works for a propulsion lab, but she can't talk about it. Now we know she don't work for NASA because she would have said she worked for NASA. She don't work for Lockheed Martin, and she don't work. She didn't say she worked for one of these other guys. So she must work for one of these smaller ones, and they must be doing something that's top secret. So the point I'm making is that how often is this shit going down? Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? Whatever. Look, all we're trying to tell you guys is that when you look up at the sky, have some discernment and is that a plane or is that that could be military, that could be something else. That's all.
But you want to hear something funny? They do these launches in the daytime. Do you know why? Think about it. It's easier to get stuff into space because everybody don't have time to be looking up. Everybody is driving around their cars. They're on their golden hamster wheels, running in this race, getting nowhere, essentially. And they won't look up. They can't be bothered to look up. They got to get this money. Nobody's looking up. Now, of course, some person listening to this is going to say, oh, it's because of barometric pressure and because of visibility. Like, no. If you're launching a rocket into sky, then you can see the trail of where it's going. You're going into the darkness anyway. You don't need sunlight to show you where the rocket's going. You have a chemical explosion that follows behind it all the way up into the sky. No. If you want to have these vertical launches into space and you want to keep it on the low, do it in the daytime, in broad daylight, in front of everybody when nobody's paying attention.
Look, there's so many things that we see, and there's so much money out there. You got billionaires who are in this space race now. So do you think it's cheaper to launch in the Midwest than it is to go down to, where are they coming down at? Are they coming down in the water? Are they re-entering? It's so many questions I got, but like I said, I digress. There's stuff out there. Just keep your eyes open.
We had some good episodes this year. Some of them that come to mind are episode 139, The Green Grift. And into that episode, we talked about how there is a lot of environmental scams and rackets going on that people don't question because these people that run these scams and these rackets are playing to humans' good nature and the fact that people want to maintain and be good custodians of the planet.
Man, that's deep. For instance, every time we turn around, they're saying they're doing it for the environment. These people in charge don't give a fuck about the environment.
Yeah, but here's something crazy. What you don't hear about. In the 1950s, you know who's putting the most money into maintaining the ecology of the planet? The Department of Defense. The Department of Defense and weapons manufacturers, because they knew that if they were careless and not cleaning up their messes, then there'd be hell to pay, and it'd be super obvious from the public.
Well, one of the biggest people that not benefited, John Wayne. That's how John Wayne died.
They were shooting that movie near White Sands.
Yeah,
it was a movie about Genghis Khan.
Yeah, called The Conqueror, and they told these people it was safe. They had stored. I don't want to. It was a nuclear waste, or I know.
Yeah, it's nuclear. It's nuclear. It's not far where they had the explosions, man. Yeah,
that's what it was. It was a testing area that they said would be safe in 10 years. That shit will never be safe. Them people out there shooting that movie in the desert, riding these horses, they all got cancer. So like I said, that's the kind of stuff that was eye-opening. So the Department of Defense don't want a black eye, and so they started cleaning up their messes and either hiding the shit better or whatever.
But then the former employees that were working in these different smaller departments for the DOD then went on to be people that were working at Greenpeace.
Yeah. That's curious.
Now, once a government employee, always a government employee.
Government employee. I was going to say that they're embedded in there, and they still got their top secret clearance. Also, don't ever forget that. A lot of these guys still have top secret clearance. Always.
So then there's these people that are working in the alternative lifestyle community. And the reason why I want to call it that is because nobody says gay anymore. And the reason why they're not saying gay anymore, because when you use terms like gay, it's very specific. So if you stop talking about, if you can remove the rights of women from that struggle, then you obfuscate what's really going on. And when you actually start to take away women's rights, then you're erasing women altogether.
But that's hard to explain.
But what happens is these feminist lesbians then begin to lose ground, and that actually hurts the cause altogether, because feminist lesbians are actually the most vocal about women's rights. Now, Here's the thing, though. See, we talked about this in the Marshmallow Mafia in episode number 121, but there's a lot of strange things that are happening behind the scenes in that movement. So what happens is that you have these gay people that are very passionate about their cause, and they're offered jobs at these activist organizations that, little unbeknownst to them, have been bought out and co-opted by these large corporate entities. So what happens is this person that they hire that was actually a foot soldier in the streets that was protesting and marching on the behalf of their cause has been silenced through money and giving them a title. So that's what happens. A lot of these people who start, out very fiery and a firebrand for their cause, they get bought out. There's stories about, when they recruit new people into these movements, and they come in and they're fiery, and they're speaking from their heart, and they're speaking from their true ideals, they get silenced. And what happens is there's this quiet hazing that goes on within that gay organization that tells them, hey, that's the way you fought in the street. We're not going to fight like that anymore. Now, the young activists that they hire is angry because they're like, hold on, I didn't sign up for this bullshit. We're not going to get anything done if you do it this way. You want to do this, and this. Hold on. You want to add, all these different groups into that, and that's fine. Person's then saying that's not their cause anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Look, what people don't understand is that literally that's how they killed the black struggle. And you can't make...
They perfected that shit on us before they did it to white people and gay people.
They used that technique. And what they did was basically, hey, let's join this group. Al Sharpton started in the group. Jesse Jackson started push. And you get in there. And
they end up steering you down a path you don't need to be going, in the wrong direction.
Remember, I'm going to get you, sucker? Yeah, we went to the rally. But we all left with government jobs. They'll give you a job, then all of a sudden, okay, you got a mortgage now. You got 3 kids now. You can't speak up because the kids won't lose their health care if they silently bribe, and they put you in a predicament where that's not good for the struggle. Like, well, how do you know it's good for the struggle? And then next thing you know...
Who makes you the arbiter of the struggle's destiny?
Yeah, next thing you know, you middle class, motherfucker. You got to pay this bill.
So you go from raging against the machine to raging on behalf of the machine.
To being a cog in that motherfucker. And they do it so sweetly. And then this is the stuff we're talking about. Like, I'll give you another example. Cryptocurrency. Now, the United States government wants a cryptocurrency. We keep warning y'all, that's not a good thing. You do not want a government-sponsored cryptocurrency that goes one for one. I forgot what show we talked about it on, but we talked about this, and it's important. It's getting closer to happening. The reason is this is a method of 2 things: social engineering and tracking. If you don't, as long as you got $1, they don't know what the fuck you're doing or where you're going. But if they fuck around and start paying you this digital currency, it's one for one. It ain't gonna hurt rich folks. It's gonna hurt poor folks. What's going to happen if they put an expiration date on your money? So they give you $50,000, but you got to spend it. It's like Brewster's Millions. You got to spend it by the end of the year. So you can't accumulate wealth, and you'll run, and you're going to spend that money to stimulate the economy. What happens if they put you on a social point system where, oh man, nigga, you look at too many dirty websites. So now we're going to dock you your money. They're taking your money out your account or devaluing your money, and so now you have no choice but to do what they say. This is a hustle. This is a way of curbing your behavior. And we're trying to warn people, this digital look, I get it. Cryptocurrency is out there, but going for a cryptocurrency that's backed by our government is setting yourself up where you have no privacy. If you got cryptocurrency on your phone, they can track where you go.
Here's the thing, man. When it comes to crypto, What you don't want to be a part of is CBDC. CBDC is government-backed cryptocurrency.
That is correct, yes.
But listen, people, there's a couple things you got to remember if you're going to play the crypto game. Number one, you got to have a cold wallet. A physical wallet looks like a USB drive, okay? There's a company called Ledger that makes one. There's other companies that make them. Get whichever one you prefer. Number two, you need to get some anonymous crypto, Monero. That's anonymous crypto. And then number three, get yourself a burner phone that you can do some of these transactions on. You
forgot one point.
Go ahead.
No, the reason crypto was started, it was to conceal your money and hide your money from the government.
Yeah, but also possibly by the CIA. But
no comment.
That's debatable. So,
no, you were right. We had a whole. He was very inept about that.
What I want to say is, at the end of the day, it's trackable currency. Even Monero can be tracked to the device, the IP address of the wallet that it's coming from. So then, how do you do this completely without anybody figuring out who you are? There's ways and methods, but understand though that when you're dealing in that type of currency, it's not completely anonymous, even though the coins you may be buying are anonymous. So the coins you buy may be anonymous, but it's still trackable to you unless you take very specific steps on how to be anonymous.
But no, anonymity was the whole point in the cryptocurrency thing. And y'all don't forget that. All because everybody wants to jump in and make money now because they saw the gains of Bitcoin. Everybody's like, oh, I could be the first. Be careful.
But check this out. But here's the deal. What you got to understand is at the end of the day, you need hard physical things that can be traded in the event of catastrophe. Because if computers go down, crypto is gone. Do you understand?
It's worthless.
It's worthless.
Look, hold it. Right now in Tennessee, they're having rolling blackouts. So what happens if you have a blackout during a transaction and you lose your money? So don't get so pegged on this.
Okay, but check this out. Sticking with that blackout, California has rolling brownouts and blackouts. Well, you can't charge your Tesla when that happens. You're trapped.
Hold it. You just said some deep. Hold it. My brother just said some deep shit. So they're forcing you to go all electric vehicles by 20 whatever. But
listen, we want all the control all the time. And so that means your movements and your money and your food, all the things you rely on.
There's two problems with electric vehicles. And that Tate dude said it first. He said the first thing is they can shut your car off. If you have an electric car, they can shut that off from anywhere. It's kind of difficult to shut off.
They were working on this 6 years ago when there was a Rolling Stones reporter that was killed, and they put a device on his car which allowed them to operate it remotely. And they cranked up the accelerator and made him crash into a wall, and he died. Now, then a year later, there was a news report, I think it was in the New York Times or maybe it was in USA Today, but they hired hackers to take control over a 2016 Jeep Cherokee and drive it remotely, even though a person had already put the keys in it, activated the vehicle, and was driving.
I thought all they could do was control the accelerator.
But this is the thing, though. All these new cars can be manipulated. So then you're like, fuck, what do I do? Guess what, buddy? You need to have yourself an old-ass car in the garage. Now, get yourself a 1995 Isuzu Rodeo, some old-ass shit like that. No, I mean, the 90s are fine. Like, even up to 2000, you can get away with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, get yourself a 20-year-old car and keep it tuned up. Go crank it once a week and leave it in the backyard. Put a tarp over it. Because that car will be your getaway vehicle when everything else has been shut down. And they're like, well, how is he getting away? How come we can't control him? Man, that's an old ass hoopty. We can't do shit for that. Well, get the drones with the shotguns on them and go shoot him down. At that point, you on your own. You got to have some weapons for that shit.
You have some problems. No, the 2 points about these electric cars. One, they can shut them down whenever they want. Two, California, they got rolling blackouts. How are you going to charge a car? And three, there's not enough natural resources to make enough batteries for all the people. If right now we have all these gas cars, you have one car per person on the whole damn planet if you want it. Everybody could have one. But if you went all electric, not everybody can have one. So right there.
So listen, you got to start working on your Batmobile. That's what you got to do. You need a Batmobile in the garage.
But you complain about this through all the podcasts. Controlling your mobility is about controlling who you are. That takes away your freedom. So now you're depending on the government. Now you're depending on the state. Now you're depending on a car manufacturer. And that limits how far you can go. Oh, I can't drive out of town anymore because I got to drive, stop, charge, drive, stop, charge. So, like I said, I get it. Gas ain't the best. But this whole idea that these people care about the environment, they don't. They care about profits and killing off people and controlling everything. And we've been explaining that to you throughout this podcast.
Yeah, and here's another thing. That car, convert that motherfucker to biodiesel. So that all you're going to need is a couple like 50-gallon barrels of corn oil in the backyard, and you can crank that damn diesel vehicle and take off and not have to worry about it. Now, of course, you have to stop at Popeyes, be like, hey, man, I gave you $100 for yesterday's grease. Like, let me get that shit right now.
You got to remember, we've talked about this in past podcasts. Diesel was designed for farmers. Diesel is not supposed to have petroleum in it. So when the guy invented the diesel engine back in 18 whatever, what happened to him? He was at the World's Fair showing his shit, and he ended up in the English Channel. You know why? Because they knew that he had came up with an idea to help farmers out. And that means they were not going to be dependent on petroleum. Now diesel has petroleum in it because they killed that dude off. There's 5 of these scientists that were free energy scientists. There's one guy came up with a 500 horsepower engine, free energy. He had investors, he had everything, disappeared the next day, jumped out a window. This stuff keeps happening. Look, all these guys that come up with cars that run on water. We just talked about the guy in Buffalo, the cop that accidentally got shot during that mass shooting at the grocery store. He had came up with a water engine. The white guy came up with a water engine. The other white guy came up with a carburetor. They got over 120 miles to the gallon. They always die. Why is that? That's not. You think they all got shitty lifestyles and they all got heart attacks? No. Whenever you have somebody who talks this free energy shit and they're serious about it and they're on point, they just a fucking peer. They die. So what we're trying to tell you is they've been able to perfect this electric car shit years ago. But the thing is, it doesn't work like that. They got a guy in Nigeria right now who has an electric car that charges itself. The initial charge, and then you have generators on the wheels. You don't need nothing else. Please watch out for that brother because he ain't going to make it into next year. So what we're telling you is that if they put you on this electric car thing, it's not to benefit you. They don't care about emissions or the environment, but they do care about controlling your movement, knowing where you are, knowing what you're doing. Every time we see these movies about the future, it's always about George Orwell. It's always about controlling you. It's always about doublespeak. It's always about political corruption, but it's also always about this upper class that are rich and beautiful, like in The Running Man. No, what's the one? Wesley Snipes. I forgot. Demolition Man, excuse me. And the Demolition Man is all beautiful up top. Then no, they're all eating rats and shit.
Elysium.
Yes, that's another one. All these movies have that same thing, but they're preparing you for the shit. They're spoon-feeding you the shit, so when it happens, you don't say shit like, hey, we saw this coming. So it's really important that you teach your kids how to fish and how to do agriculture and live far away. Look, I just got on my mom's case. I said, Mom, you need one of those generators that work on gas. So, because they got rolling blackouts in Tennessee, and that way you'll be fine. This is the real deal. Think about this shit. Think about where you are, not where you want to be. Think about your reality. Because reality is, if we go with this agenda that they're talking, we'll have less and be less. They already told you that they're buying up all the houses where you can't own a house anymore. Everybody will be renting and they'll be happy about it. That's what Schwab said. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. If you hear what he's saying. What's up, bro?
And then there's the Faustian. Episode 140. The Faustian deal, the deal with darkness. You see these people who worship Baphomet. It's in fashion photography and advertisements. These people like Balenciaga with their Baal worship and child sacrifices they're placing in your face in broad daylight.
There was a hashtag, what was it called? Please forgive me, I forgot the name. Hashtag such and such. That guy was the god of child sacrifice. They sacrificed to Baal. They're putting this in your face. And you have to fight against it. You have to question these celebrities. Like I said, unfortunately, Kanye came out and said, like, all the celebrities are controlled. None of these celebrities want to speak up because they're controlled. And if they speak up, they'll lose their contracts. They lose all their money. If you do something wrong, like Kyrie, you get punished. This shit is disgusting. Just go look at the ads and go look at the producer and the writers on this shit.
Gucci now has ads with the same thing. These advertisements have Harry Styles wearing this T-shirt that is pedo-friendly.
What it is, come to find out, the same person that owns Balenciaga owns 3 of these premium fashion, the same company. I don't know if it's a person or a company, please forgive me. But they own 3 or 4 premium fashion brands. Gucci is one of them. I didn't really, you think Gucci is, it's not still owned by that family. And that's the thing that Kanye was saying, unfortunately, is that a lot of this stuff is not owned by who you think it's owned by. And when you realize that they all got a common master, and they all have the same agenda.
But
That
see,
shit
these
is
same
disgusting.
people, these same cracker-ass crackers had these stepping and fetching tar baby images in Gucci advertisements a year and a half ago. And Floyd Mayweather talking about, I don't care, I'll wear it. It looks nice. So then you got these crack-ass crackers putting this shit out. Come to find out, they're also Baal worshiping, dark arts practicing pedophiles. You just trash all the way through your core. Like if I slice you in half with a katana, it's just trash from the surface all the way through your tissue, all the way down to your bones. You're rotting all the way through. So then you see these people putting this stuff out in your face, saying, we don't care what you think. We don't care about the backlash because we got the bread. We got all the money, so bring all the smoke. That means they are courting darkness. That means that they're not intimidated by your social media threat.
I think what it is that me and you had this talk also years ago. Remember when the guy that owned Tide, Procter and Gamble, came out, so they were shading worship, and Tide sales fell off, and they came back and apologized. Oh no, we sold it to another company. That's because back then, in the '80s, if you came out as a devil worshippers, something happened to you. Your profits fell off. The moral right said no, we won't buy your product. Nowadays, when you find out somebody worships the devil, they're like, freedom of religion. I'll buy it anyway. They're cheaper than Target. That kind of shit. You feel me? Like you literally care more about your money than about the world going to hell in a handbasket.
As I said before, the devil will not just stick it all the way in. He's going to put just the tip in.
He's gonna put the tip in. Yep.
And duct tape, what do you say all the time? God will tell you no sometimes, but the devil will always tell you yes. This is the problem. Everybody's like, oh, well, freedom of religion and this and that. I'm like, okay, that's cool until these companies buy up more companies, until they buy up all the major companies, and then they control what you see, what you hear, and what you say. Is it still freedom of religion then? Because then everything that they're putting out, all their content, is catering to their desires, their end goals, and what they really want. I'll give you a weird example. LDS, the Church of Latter-day Saints. Come to find out, the Human Genome Project came out of Utah.
Wow.
Yes. Now, there's even a web page about the Latter-day Saints transhumanist project. Yeah. So it gets crazier because a lot of these people, these Mormons, Latter-day Saints people, end up getting government jobs. That's why after the Native American Wars, any policing that needed to be done by government agents out there, they always made sure that it was done by Mormons. That That's when crazy. they sent FBI agents to those reservations to investigate things, it was Mormon agents.
Again, whenever people don't believe us and they say that's a conspiracy theory or there's a conspiracy in theory, don't stick the theory on there. Look up Operation Snow White for all those people who don't understand that this shit is real. Operation Snow White was when the Scientologists kept getting arrested for child molestation and fucking people up. What they did was they had a thing called Operation Snow White where they infiltrated all these different levels of government, whether it was sheriff's department, police stations, all the way up to mayor, governor, all the way up to the White House. And there were all these Scientologists. And what they were doing, they were wiping the records of these Scientologists that got busted doing fucked up shit. Look that up. Operation Snow White. This is a real thing. And when you look it up, this is not a conspiracy theory. This was proven. And when the government found out, they started weeding these motherfuckers out. Now, do you think they got everybody? Hail Hydra. That's what I'm saying. This is some Hydra shit. Only you would get that joke. But this literally when you find out the government was infiltrated by these Scientologists to clear the record of other Scientologists that got caught fucking little boys in the ass. This is what we're talking about.
Okay, but here's the problem, though. People throw out the word Nazi so easy nowadays.
Yes,
and
that's funny,
they're spending that verbal ammunition too recklessly when they should save that for the true Nazis that are alive, that are part of the World Economic Forum. I'm talking about you, Klaus. I'm talking about you, George Soros. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about these cats that have Cobra Commander level plans for controlling everything that you say and do. Who else thinks like that? Who is so OCD who's so OCD that always wants to see your papers, where you're going, what are you saying, what are you thinking about? That's Nazi level shit. Nazi level. Dude, did you watch the documentary Missing 411, the UFO connection that I told you about?
No, I was busy, but I bought it, so I'm definitely gonna watch it. But
Dude,
go ahead,
for sure
spoiler.
watch that
Tell me.
shit. Because what this is about, this documentary, in a very meticulous manner, David Paulides tracks all of the data related to these disappearances of these people in these national park areas all around the United States.
That's
One
some
area
crazy
that
shit
he
right there.
focuses on in particular is this cluster of disappearances in Wyoming near the Nebraska and Colorado borders. All of the people that went missing are of German ancestry,
Bullshit.
and they're hunters, and they're men. Really strange shit. So it's like, oh, you guys need more DNA for the breakaway civilization that left Earth after World War II when the Nazis had this anti-gravity
Stargate
propulsion
shit.
and they built these starships and they left the Earth. So they want to replenish their Aryan stock with these Germanic people.
Look, I told you when I was in high school, I had that theory that hey, these UFOs, these are the Egyptians that left. These are the Kemetic people that left, and they're coming back. If they can build the pyramids, of course they can fly away. And people, everybody just was laughing except my teacher, and she's just like, "That is profound." I was like, "Thanks." Do I get an A? But the point being is that so much of this stuff is we watch it on TV, so we've been indoctrinated with all these different theories. We don't know what's true anymore. We don't know what's entertainment or real life. And it's just odd that when this brother breaks down this coincidence, like, hey, these are all a similar type person. They need some certain DNA. They need special DNA to do something. And where else can you find it? Also the other thing, these guys are rough guys. These guys are premium straight. These are tough people. These ain't the.
One guy was a former Green Beret. Another guy had been hunting since he was 12.
You ain't gonna sneak up on no green beret. You know.
But the crazy part about it is that one of the guys that they grabbed matched all the criteria except for one. He had a vasectomy.
Oh,
so
wow.
he has sterilized himself. So then when they it's crazy because he had tumorous growths in his lungs, right? And he said when he returned, these growths were gone. He went to the doctor, he got an x-ray, and he's like, I don't know what you did, but those things are gone now. So then he said while he was on the ship, the crazy part is like he was out hunting elk when he was taken. And he shot a bullet at these elk. It was a bunch of elk that was just frozen in the pasture. They were just staring at him. And he shot a bullet at him, and he said the bullet hit an invisible barrier, and it just stopped. And he walked up to the bullet, and he picked it up, and he looked at it, and like the front part was just blunted, and he just put it in his pocket. He said it was something that snatched him up. And then he woke up on the ship, and he said they told him where they was from, where they were going. He said, but you can't come with us because you altered yourself. And he said, because you altered yourself, you can't come with it. Like a cattle mutilation, he said they dropped him out of the ship and he fell on the hill and rolled down the hill like he was like a piece of trash.
That's fucked up.
Check this out. So then he said, but while he was there, he said, because you have castrated yourself, you are of no use to us. Dude.
That's some crazy shit.
Watch that documentary, Missing 411, The UFO Connection.
No, I already paid for it. I'm watching it.
Yeah. A lot of this comes back to this episode that we had called The Nightmare Machine. And that was episode 101. And in that episode, we cover all of this fear-based broadcast you see on television, all this fear-based news that is being pushed on you over and over. It was a newscaster that read this copy. And the copy was, be careful reading and accepting medical information on Twitter. And you can go on YouTube and you can watch it. There's 100 people saying this exact same line. And it's, this is for sure programming.
Oh my God.
Yes. It's like, these are thought wars. Thought wars on this is how you're going to think. We want to control it. And this show has been banned several times because of medical misinformation. We don't even cover anything medical on this show. But it's a catch-all. It's a catch-all that can be used to silence us on this particular platform, if they so choose.
Look, I'm fighting a battle right now. I can't tell you where, because you know what I do for a living. And so they're literally, these companies are literally using the HIPAA laws to I gotta say, to fire people. They're literally using HIPAA as a reason to fire you over your attendance. Like, oh, we don't want to take your doctor's notes, or we don't want any verification. You just got to go. This is how hypocritical these people are. They literally use shit that's meant to save you against you. And primarily, like I said, this cancer. Cancer is big business. When they're charging you what $15,000 to $23,000 per pill, and you take 5 pills a month, you know, they're charging your insurance, and your copay is ridiculous. Of course, they do not want to cure cancer. Cancer is their biggest cash cow, and everything gives you cancer. Everything you eat, everything you wear. Here's the crazy part: when we were kids, remember that they told you don't go out in the sun; it gives you skin cancer. What the fuck? The sun is what saves you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and that brings me to the show that we had about that. It was called Killer with Sunshine. And Killer with Sunshine was really about, listen, do not fear the sun. Go out into the sun. The sun actually helps to destroy the darkness. Because think about it like this. Darkness cannot exist in the appearance, in the presence of sunlight. It has to run and hide because the light is greater.
Like I said, the biggest hustle is the misinformation is the indoctrination that we had in this public school system. And it was designed like that by Henry Ford. Who was the other guy? J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford. No, there was Rockefeller. They didn't want smart people. They wanted good workers. And so they indoctrinate you. And then you find out as you get older, this whole American history thing is a lie. And then you find out as you get older, hell, the food pyramid was a lie. You find out the women that invented it had a real pyramid that was really legit, where they wanted you to have 6 servings of fruits and vegetables and bread once a week and meat once a month, you know, like that. And the dairy was pissed off because they were cut out. So when you read the history of this shit, you find out that like, the dairy industry is the biggest terrorist organization there is. You're pumping you full of bullshit. You start finding out a lot, and you don't know what to believe. You don't know where to look. And that's why I tell you, don't believe shit. Believe is a terrible word. Belief is the enemy of facts. Remember that.
There's doubt in belief. But check this out. So we also had an episode this year that was taken down. Well, our 100th episode that was taken down was called Endless Jiu-Jitsu. They took that down, citing medical misinformation. And then we had another episode before that called 2030. And in that episode, before it was taken down, we showed how the trends that we're seeing are leading towards this massive peak of upheaval. And that when the year 2030 comes around, that's the culmination of the plans by the United Nations to set up all of the framework for everybody to be categorized and cataloged, and then all of the natural resources to be allocated on the planet Earth. They're writing the framework for that now. They're building everything and putting it in place so that by the time 2030 comes around, it'll be operating like a smooth machine. So they say, or it's what they intend. Because Agenda 2030 is on a local level. And so what they did is they came out with Agenda 21 first for a global level. But that only works if everybody in their individual states or city states is dancing to the same song. So then they create these smaller subgroups, and they create these certain ideologies, because the whole idea of transgender was created by somebody that worked for the UN. And that was back in 2006 when nobody was talking about that shit.
They also start influencing your kids with this stuff. They start talking about things, and it's at an earlier and earlier level where it's more accepted.
Unless a man has had gender assignment surgery, he can still do harm to a woman physically, right? With his sexual organs. So then there's no way of knowing if this man has had this surgery, but he's now going into the women's restroom, right? So, and everybody's like, oh, no, you're just thinking the worst case scenario. Am I? Because this year there was a guy in a women's penitentiary who called himself, transgender, and he was having sex
Impregnated
with female inmates. He got two of them pregnant.
in a guard too. I thought. Look it up. I think
Right,
it was two women in a guard.
right. There is a fox in the hen house, but
But
that's what
there
I'm
was
saying,
also
man. People think that these things can happen. Bullshit.
look. There's two things I want to bring up when you talk about that. One, there was a rape someplace down south. I don't want to quote it because I can't remember. It was on a different episode, but we talked about where a trans person was in a female restroom and he assaulted a woman. Second, if if you want these trans women participating in women's sports, how come the trans men don't participate? You know why? Because they can't win. This is about winning. This is about fighting somebody that is inferior to you physically. So whenever you have the Olga and she's big and she's throwing the shot put, but she used to be a man, that shouldn't count. But on the flip side,
What about these girls in Michigan that completely revolted against the school system because they let this dude join the team? He's lapping everybody else because his bones are bigger and heavier.
His muscles are thicker. There's no substitute for puberty, number one. Number two, all I'm saying is this. How come none of these trans women ever want to go up against Serena Williams? You know why? Because they would still lose at tennis.
Because
they don't want
what they
real
don't tell you
competition.
is that these are men that failed at being a man amongst men.
That's
And
the whole
so
point.
they wanted to go try this against. They're picking on somebody smaller than them. Yeah,
Look,
this is bullying, dude. That's what that is.
hey, you remember the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer went to the karate class? It was nothing but 9-year-olds, and he beat them all up. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm a natural." That's what I'm talking about. You are literally a comedy episode, and all I'm saying is this: they have transgender men. They have women who have become men. How come you don't see them in weightlifting? How come you don't see them? And I've seen some of them are covered muscular, but they won't compete because they know they will not win. They don't want to be in a situation. So when you have a trans man who used to be a woman, you would think that you would see them running races. You would think you would see them out. No, because they can't perform on that level yet. Even with the drugs, and they're all muscular and they're all this, and they have a fake dingling. They still can't do what the real does. And so you don't. So if you pay attention, that's the deal. These people don't want to compete at a even playing field. And look, I have no problem with
but see,
somebody
you
being
brought that up. Not competing on an even playing field. So then, what we're talking about is nonlinear warfare. And for those of you who remain skeptical about the things that we're talking about, go and revisit our episode called Nonlinear. It's one of the episodes that came out this year. And this episode talks about how the United States has been under attack and is being attacked by foreign bodies, foreign agencies, foreign armies on psychological warfare levels, physical levels. They have indoctrinated American citizens to do things like attack power plants. Right now, in the state of Washington,
in Washington,
on Christmas morning, there is 14,000 people are without power because somebody has been indoctrinated, or they became buddy with a foreigner that has down with America sensibilities. Well, guess what? All that's like fun and dandy until the rubber hits the road. Because how far are you willing to go with this? Because are you willing to take a bullet for this shit? Because they busted some guys last month. And, well, no, I'm sorry. This happened last month and right around Thanksgiving. It always happens around the holidays. That's let you know these some little dick punks. Because they do it when people are gathering with their families. So, okay, you motherfuckers are Cobra. You're terrorists. So you want to bring harm to people when they're most vulnerable. Okay. Fuck you very much. So these people, what they want to do is they want to bring down your quality of life so that you're suffering. They're hurting poor people. Because if you had balls, you would take it to the man. You're not stealing big. You're stealing little. All right? You're knocking over liquor stores. You're not knocking over the First Savings and Loan.
Stop punching down, motherfucker.
Pretty much, man. But that's what's happening, though. You have these cats that were being monitored by FBI that went out and did the shit that the FBI thought they was going to do. And I'm like, so you let them do it? You didn't intercede, but like, all right, this thing is on. Let's go and go kick in the doors on 5, 3, 2, 2, 1. Oh no, you didn't do it.
Uh, that's what it's a complicated thing with the FBI situation. I understand where they're coming from because if you haven't done a crime, you can't get me for thinking about it. But you see what a motherfucker.
Oh, whoa. Yes, I can follow them all the way to the fucking power station, and when they show with chainsaws at the fucking fence, I can stop them right there.
I was going there. Like you got like 145 phone calls, text messages, people buying shit, and when you find out the date, you got them tracked. Like okay, hey, these guys are on the move. Send some SWAT cars out there. You just wait and see. And once it happens, I get it. You got to let it something happen, but don't wait until. Because here's my deal. You realize the FBI was following Biggie, and then Biggie gets shot. So you mean to tell me that y'all that's complacency? Like yeah, well, we knew he was being followed. We knew this. We knew that.
But
So
who ran the FBI for the longest time? J. Edgar Hoover, and he hates black people. Do you think that mentality died with J. Edgar Hoover? No, because there are the Department of Defense, and there's also the federal. I'm trying to think of the agency. The Justice Department has an investigation about white supremacists in government agencies, intelligence agencies included. So therefore, yes, these cracker-ass crackers exist in the FBI. Still.
to this day, to this day, to this day. Look, when we bring up these past episodes, we've talked about all these different subjects, and it's still pertinent to this day. Stuff is still going on. We want you to go back and listen to our past episodes. We talk about everything. We talk about relationships. Kevin Samuels dying, but how many women now are watching Kevin Samuels learning from it? Even my wife is like, you know what? The guy was right about a lot of shit.
You know what? And that's a good question. Like, are people going back to? Is he still relevant? Are people still? Is he the Dr. Sebi of relationship advice?
Well, it wasn't just advice because everybody's mad because he was so hard on women. He was hard on dudes too. He has that one guy. He said, "Let me get this straight. You're 300 pounds. You make less than 40,000 a year. You're 43 years old. Then you got a big dick. I ain't on porn. So no, nigga, do you have a big dick? Because you ain't got shit else to offer." What he's telling people is you don't have realistic expectations and you're not making yourself better. The whole point is to make yourself better. The whole point is when you choose a mate, you guys should be a dream team. You ain't got to be Beyonce and Jay, but you definitely got to raise these kids. And that's what nobody wants to talk about. Everybody wants to be a fucking reality star, but ain't nobody raising kids. Buying Jordans and feeding a kid is not raising them. But telling that motherfucker how to act and when to act, taking them hunting, taking them fishing.
But I'm going to tell you something. Sacrificing the things that you want so kids can have Christmas presents, so kids can have karate class and martial arts class and violin class and gymnastics and all this stuff. Making sure that you take care of them first. That's being an adult.
Well, okay, that situation is complicated because that's what people are doing. They're buying Jordans and shoes and chains, but they're not teaching them how to read or count. And then they get mad when the kid fails at school and they get mad at the teacher. Like, nah, motherfucker, you got the kid more hours a day than I do. You should be the biggest influence, not the teacher. The teacher should be secondary. Your kids should know something before they get there. Making a sacrifice is important, yeah, because that shows that you love them. But at the same time, not everybody needs that. You need to be able to say no, and that's what I told you. Some of these people can't even say no to their child. Yeah, I've been manipulated. Kids, they know how to manipulate you. The point, what I'm saying is that when this guy's pointing out stuff and he's dead now, and all these girls are bashing him, they was bashing that nigga after he died. I'm like, oh, really? Are you serious?
But but that tells you that tells you those people that are bashing him are the people that he was screaming on. You know what I mean? That the people that he was basically holding the mirror up to. So all those butt naked ass reptilians that's hating on him, those are the ones he's talking about.
And look, he has a lot of videos out there. They're entertaining as hell. But he even said, I don't like talking to married men or women who have fiancés. Because one, he said, I don't want to get beat up. Two, a lot of times that your husband was telling you this stuff and you didn't like to hear it. Or you browbeat him to death. And look, what we're saying is that be careful who the media props up, because sometimes the self-made guy or the self-made woman are the ones you need to be listening to, because they're telling you how they avoided these minefields and what you need to do. But then you look at Oprah, who, was man bashing back in the day. Uh, all the shows were like that. That's how she got rich and popular. And then now she has a whole network where she's pushing all this bullshit that doesn't work. It's all about her making her money. Look, you got some legitimate people out there that really care about you. Dr. Sebi was one of them, telling you that you can change your diet to fix yourself, that you don't need this medicine. Leave this alone. Leave that alone. And so we talked about cancer. I cured cancer. He's cured all that stuff. But that's being pushed on the down low. It's kind of odd that when Nipsey Hussle was going to come out with a documentary about him, that's when Nipsey Hussle died.
But see, this is the thing, though. And then, Nick Cannon was supposed to come out with a Nipsey Hussle documentary. So then it's like this echoing telephone thing where it gets so further away from the fucking original message. It's like, dude, I don't need that bullshit. I'm more concerned with the original message.
It's so deep, because remember, Nick Cannon said, I'm going to finish Nipsey's documentary about Dr. Sebi. Next thing you know, Nick got Professor Griff on there, and he was anti-Semitic.
But is that shitty timing? Is that lack of vision? Is that lack of follow through? Is that a controlled demolition, or all of the above?
Man, controlled demolition, that's a deep word. Look, like I said, we talk about all this stuff. We talk about these things. We want you to go back and listen to these episodes and revisit them. But we also need you to have your head in the now. Not so much in the past and not too much in the future, but you need to definitely know what's happening now, and can we stop it? All these new world order things, all this Illuminati shit, all this, whenever it's happened in the past, people rose up and stopped it. They stopped buying that product. They stopped doing this. But what happens when these people are so big and all the products belong to one person? It makes it really difficult. So we need you to start making your own shit. I don't care if you got to make your own cleaner at the house, motherfucker. Do what it takes, because if you support these people, they're only getting stronger and you're getting weaker. And they're force feeding you bullshit and you don't realize it. Putting shit on a cracker is still shit. I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you name it something different. So we need y'all to wake up, look around and take care of your children. In fact, we need you to make children. I get it. I ain't saying something wrong with being gay, but back in the day, gay people were married and they had kids, and then they got gay afterwards. I was just saying, I know that sounds fucked up to say, but I'm saying that we need more people. That's how we're going to beat this. And what they're doing is they're limiting the population by telling you it's great that you've been gay since you were 2 years old, because you'll never have kids. They're pushing these agendas because it helps.
That's population control.
Control, exactly.
Because when you have a smaller population, that population is easier to control and track. So then they put out products like crypto. They put out products like certain pharmaceutical medicines. They put out ideologies. They put out these things, these causes that you weren't even down with, but now all of a sudden it's being forced on you. They do all this to control public perception and to control the population levels, because then they can fit all those cows into a corral much easier. So,
yep.
Look, 2022, we came hard. Well, guess what? In 2023, like the I Ching break apart, we're going to go even harder and come with even more data and bust you upside the head until we see the white meat. Okay? So look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.